Okay, so we have ingredients over here, and so this is like, so some ramen shops in Japan actually use bread flour, which has like higher protein content than like ramen noodle flours that we have in Japan, which is usually 11% in protein content. Like this bread flour that they use, typically like it has 13% protein content, and so water, these the currency and salt. So these are all the ingredients that we're going to put into the noodles, right? And then this is the solid ingredients. These are the liquid ingredients. Okay, I'm going to mix them. And this noodle machine, which has this 10 kilograms mixer. By the way, this machine is called Ramen 1 machine, and this particular model is certified for CE mark, and so that's good to be shipped to EU countries and other European countries. It has single phase 230 volts, so you can plug it right into the power socket and start using it. And so this machine has this 10 kilograms mixer. This means that you can mix up to 10 kilograms of solid ingredients, and then on top of it you're adding liquid ingredients. So at the maximum, you should be able to get 14 kilograms of dough at a time. So you can see the timer digitally, and so we add this liquid, which has the currency powder and salt dissolved in it, the water. And so she poured the water like liquid into the lid, which has these small holes, right? And so the liquid is added to the flour and the mixing like a little by little. That promotes the good hydration of dough. And we can wait for the mixing to be done, which takes like 10 minutes. So you don't have that much time, that kind of time. So she prepared the dough in advance, and so you saw that she put the dough into the plastic bag, right? And so she let the dough sit at room temperature, and that was the first resting process. Resting process like helps kind of further develop the gluten structure inside dough, and then literally it rests the dough, meaning like, so after the dough like is mixed in a mixer, it gets a lot of pressure from mixing, and so it's the dough is like stressed out, and like if you go right into the next process, like which is what she's doing right now is like making the rough sheet of dough. The gluten structure that's been developed inside the dough get damaged, so that's bad for the noodle texture. So we want to rest it before we start doing this process called like rough forming. Now basically like we're making like rough sheet of dough first. So she's feeding dough, and then you may be able to notice that the color of the dough, which is like darker than usual. So like it's yellow like from the potassium carbonate, the currency that we added to the dough, but you may be able to notice that like it's a bit darker because the high ash content that we talked about, right? So this high ash content, like we said that like that's 0.5%, which is actually very high for ramen noodles and like other types of noodles that we make in Japan. Because I think like Japanese are sort of like obsessed with the color of white, and you know, we love like everything in white color, you know, bread, noodles like udon types of noodles, but like actually like ash is minerals, it's a concentrated minerals, so they're actually good for your health. Like there's nutrients, source of nutrients. So, well, but you know, we're trying to get rid of as much of them as possible, like in the milling process, which is it's a bit stupid, but because of the just appearance, right? The color, like the milling process in Japan, like in is being like designed and like polished to get rid of these nutrients as much as possible, to have like really low ash content in the many types of flours that are distributed in Japan. So the dough is being fed to a set of rollers and to the roller gap. That's set to 1.5 millimeter, and so that's 1.5 millimeter in thickness. So it's gone through this set of roller, and like it's still rough, like it's very weak. You can rip it apart like pretty easily with the hand, right? Well, like, you know, so we want to make it stronger to make it like good texture, and then like, so we want to what we want to do is that we want to separate this sheet into two sheets, right? And then like combine them together through the rollers. So we call this process like combining process. And so you're putting two separate sheets together to one through a set of rollers, and then so the sheet is coming out, and maybe able to see how smoother it is than before. And so that was 1.5 millimeter in each in thickness, like for each of the sheets. And so the dough that's going into the rollers is are supposed to be, thickness of them is supposed to be 3 millimeter in thickness. It's 1.5 plus 1.5 like 3 millimeter. So 3 millimeter equivalent dough is going through the rollers, which she set to 2 millimeter. So we want to, because we want to like gradually thin the dough, not drastically, because that would damage the unit structure of the dough. So we want to reduce the thickness by 70%. 3 times 70%, 0.7 to 0.1, but to make it simple, like round it down to 2.0. So after the first combining process, we want to do another round of it, just to make sure that gluten structure is well developed thoroughly. So again, we are combining them again. So that was supposed to be like 2 millimeter in thickness, like each of the dough sheet was. And so 2 plus 2, that's 4. And again, like 70%, 4 times 0.7, 2.8. But like this time, like we want to make simpler by rounding it up to 3. So the roller gap is set to 3 millimeter. Right, so after the second combine process, so the gluten structure inside dough is like thoroughly developed. It's complete, right? So all we have to do is just thin it, thin the dough sheet to the final thickness, and so ДЖИРО ramen style ramen is reverse cut. Like this version is reverse cut. So like we're using this cutter that has like deeper groove, so that this kind of slitter can cut like kind of thicker noodle dough and the dough sheet. And 18, number 18 means the width is 1.7, but the thickness is supposed to be like for regular type of ramen noodle, like thickness is supposed to be 1.5 millimeter. But this is the ДЖИРО ramen noodles that we are talking about today. So the thickness is actually the bigger for these noodles. So it's called like reverse cut noodles. It's reverse, like it's usually the width is bigger than thickness, but this noodle like thickness is bigger than width. So the noodle coming now, and well, as I said, like the portion size, like ДЖИРО ramen is very big. So we're making big portions, but you can control the portion size by changing the length of the noodles. So there's like a cutter that rotates to portion out the noodles inside this machine. So you can cut the noodles the certain length to, and as you can see, this is the cut surface. So you see like this is the surface is pretty rough. So that's the part, the surface that like this the slitter cutter cut. And sorry, this is the this is the width, right? This is the width, and this is the thickness. So see, like width is 1.7 millimeter, and then but the thickness is 3.5. So that's like really it's very reverse cut, and so this type of noodles are like very popular, like for ДЖИРО style ramen noodles and IK ramen noodles. Like we did in the previous class, and for those of you like who are interested in it, you can check out the recording of the class that we have on our YouTube channel. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Once again, my name is Thomas. I'm one of the instructors at the Yamato Noodle School. And today's topic is ДЖИРО style ramen. So let me just briefly talk about ДЖИRO style ramen. So ДЖИRO style ramen is a very unique type of ramen, and you either love it or hate it. And for people that who loves ДЖИRO style ramen, they almost have like a cult-like culture in the world. So let me just break up that ДЖИRO style ramen into the 5 elements and talk about each one of them. Okay, so first, stock. So the stock for ДЖИRO style ramen is emulsified or slightly emulsified pork stock. So they usually use pork stock, but depending on the shops, they either have very emulsified stock or slightly emulsified stock. And for the flavoring sauce, in Japanese, motodare, they usually use a soy sauce based motodare. And for the flavored oil, they use chunky pork fat. The chunky pork fat is just like this. So to make this, you take the sheet of pork fat and you just simmer it in the stock until it's soft. And once it's soft enough, you just take it out and you just break it up into chunks. So we use this as a favorite oil and also topping as well. Okay, and the next part is the noodles. And noodles for ДЖИRO style ramen. What we just made is a reverse cut noodles. So ramen noodles can be broken up into 3 different shapes. First one is flat, second one is square, and the third one is the reverse. Okay, so first of all, the flat one, the noodle sheet is thinned out very thin, and then cut into wide noodles. Okay, and the square shaped one, the width and the thickness is the same, so it makes that square shape. So most type of ramen is in the square shape, but for the ДЖИRO style ramen, we use a reverse cut ramen noodles. But these are, the noodle sheet is very thick and cut into thin piece of noodles. Okay, so it makes that rectangular shape. But flat one is also rectangular, but the texture is completely different because so let me explain with the flat noodles. So this top surface right here, this part is rolled out with a roller, so it's nice and smooth. But this part, the side, the part that was cut with the cutter, is very rough. So flat noodles has the smooth surface, larger smooth surface area. For the reverse cut noodles, that rough surface that was cut with the cutter is larger than that smooth surface that was made with the roller. So the reverse cut has a larger rough surface area, so it picks up the soup more than the flat noodles or the square noodles. So that makes it better and more pairs well with the ДЖИRO style ramen. Okay, so ДЖИRO style ramen uses reverse cut noodles. Okay, for the toppings, so here's the 5 common toppings for the ДЖИRO style ramen. First one is boiled bean sprouts and cabbage, a lot of them. And number 2, minced garlic. Number 3, chunky pork fat. Number 4, pork chashu. And lastly, spicy tempura bits. And Jiro style ramen is known for the amount of toppings. As you can see, there's a mountain of boiled bean sprouts and cabbage. And that's one of the biggest unique characteristics of Jiro style ramen, amount of portion, amount of toppings on that ramen. Okay? And other characteristics of Jiro style ramen is the yellow signboard. Okay? Most Jiro style ramen has a yellow signboard. It started off from the original ramen Jiro, and all the other ramen shop that was inspired by the original ramen Jiro also had the yellow signboard. So most Jiro style ramen shops have the yellow signboards. And number 2, unique order style. So ramen Jiro style ramen, you get to choose the amount of noodles, amount of boiled vegetables, amount of garlic, amount of pork fat, and the saltiness. But once you go into the shop, the staff won't ask you for the preference. If you want to change it up, you have to say it yourself. They won't ask for it. So if you don't say anything, they'll just make everything normal and regular. So if you want more vegetables, you just ask for more vegetables. And if you want more salty or less salty, you just tell the staff, and you can adjust your Jiro style ramen. Okay. And number 3, you must stay quiet in the shop. Okay, like I said, Jiro style ramen shops, they have like a cult-like culture. And when you go into the shop, no one's talking, no one's on their phone. All you hear is people slurping on their Jiro style ramen. That's one of the rules at a Jiro style ramen. Okay, so next I want to talk about the stock. Okay, so here's the stock. Oh, okay, so here's the stock for the Jiro style ramen. As you can see, the stock is completely emulsified. And the density is around 8%. So the stock is very concentrated. And I want to briefly talk about the steps of making this ramen stock. Okay, so to make that ramen stock for Jiro, so first step is to put the bone and water into a stock pot. So for Jiro, we use pork bone, and we usually use pork backbone and pork leg bone for Jiro style ramen. So you put that bone and water into a stock pot, and then you heat it up and bring to a boil. And once the stock is brought to a boil, the scum is going to start to float up on the surface of the stock. So you want to remove all the scum until it's completely clean to make the stock have a clear tasting stock. Okay. So once the scum removal is complete, number 4, you want to keep that rapid boil until you have your desired density. So we usually aim for density 8%. So you just keep boiling until desired density. And the amount, approximately the time from step 1 to 4 is around 6 to 8 hours. And you'll reach that density 8%. Okay. And lastly, once the stock is complete, you want to strain and quickly chill the stock. Okay. So that's the stock making method for your ramen stock. So now I want to show you how to strain the ramen stock. So people say that straining process is the hardest job at a ramen shop. So I want to just quickly show you guys how to strain out the stock. Okay, so what you need is a strainer and a spatula and something to scoop up the stock. Okay, so first I'm going to show you how to strain the stock by hand. I'm just going to scoop up the stock and just put it in the strainer. And then, as you can see, there's these like small bits and pieces, and this fills up the whole of the strainer, so it stops. The soup is not strained out smoothly. So now you want to use a spatula to scrape off the bits and pieces from the side to strain out the stock. So yeah, just like this. So when you're straining by hand, it's a lot of work. So today I want to show you the ramen stock strainer. So this is going to make your life a lot easier with the ramen stock. Okay. So this ramen strainer, how it works is that there's like this strainer inside, and the strainer inside will rotate and uses that force to strain out the stock. And there's these scraper that will scrape off that bits and pieces off the strainer, so it keeps that straining process smooth. Okay, so let's give it a try. And also, so I just turned on the machine. As you can see, the strainer is spinning, and you can adjust the speed by this dial right here. You can make it slower or faster, and the speed will change. Okay, so let's give it a try. So you just take the stock and you just pour directly into the lid. And as you can see, the stock is drained out very quickly, smoothly, and less work. And as you can see, when I'm pouring the stock, the bone is caught on the lid. So all you need to do is just throw away this bone later. So when I did the straining process by hand, one scoop of the stock took me around, 2 scoops took me like 2 minutes. But in that 2 minutes, I did like 10 or 15 scoops of the strainer, so the stock. So using the stock strainer, it makes our straining process a lot easier and faster, cuts down on labor costs. And all you need to do is throw away this bone and also all that bits and pieces. The stock is completely strained out, so the bits and pieces is very dry now. Okay, so this is the ramen stock strainer. So today I'm going to use this stock to make the ДЖИРО style ramen. Okay, so I'm just going to take a couple scoops of this stock. The stock is very creamy. Okay. Okay, so the first step is to boil the noodles. So here's a reverse cut ДЖИRO style ramen noodles. Okay. So, and before boiling the noodles, what you want to do is just like lightly press the noodles so it's slightly wavy, just like this. So I'm gonna do with another batch. Just lightly press the noodles so it's slightly wavy, just like this. And I'm going to boil these for 4 minutes. Okay. And what you want to do is mix the noodles for the first 5 or 10 seconds and 4 minutes. Okay, so while we wait for the noodles to be ready, let's prepare the sauce and flavored oil. So here's that soy sauce based flavored oil. Flavoring sauce. So I'm going to take 1 full scoop of this flavoring sauce into the ramen bowl, and 1 full scoop of this pork fat, and a little bit of garlic. So now that the sauce and the flavored oil is ready, I'm going to torch the chashu. Here's a pork chashu. I'm going to torch the chashu so it has a nice grilled surface. So just like this. Now let's prepare the boiled vegetables. So for the boiled vegetables, we're going to use cabbage and bean sprouts. I'm going to take the ramen noodle boiling strainer. I'm going to take the cabbage, put it into the basket, bean sprouts as well. And let's boil these for around a minute. So the vegetables should be ready, so I'm going to take it out. Strain out the water completely. This water is going to dilute the soup. And put it into a bowl. Okay, so the noodles should be ready soon. So I'm going to pour the hot stock into that sauce and oil. I'm going to take one full scoop. This is a 300 milliliter ladle. I'm just going to take one full scoop of the stock. And the noodles should be ready soon in 10 seconds. And make sure this water is completely strained out. And put the noodle into the soup. And just line up the noodles a little. Okay, now I'm going to take the vegetables. So Jiro style ramen is known to have the mountain of boiled vegetables. Next, I'm going to take the chashu. Just put it on the side. 2 pieces. And more garlic, more minced garlic on the side as a topping. And also, we're going to use that pork fat as a topping as well. So I'm going to take a couple scoops of this pork fat and put a half scoop of that flavoring sauce. And I'm going to season the pork fat. Okay. And this goes on top, just like that. And lastly, we have that spicy tempura bits. So I made this by mixing chili flakes and tempura batter and just deep fry it until it's nice and crispy. I'm just going to put this on top. Okay. Just going to wipe the sides. Okay, so this is how to make your Jiro style ramen.